Hey, Chris Lane here at the 2012 ICAST show in Orlando. I'm here to teach you guys a little bit about line. Stren line is what I use. We're gonna talk about braided line, fluorocarbon, and stren. And the reason I use these lines and kind of the conditions that I use them in, so that when you go to the store and you're trying to pick out, okay, what line do I want? Because there's so many of them out there now, you know, between fluorocarbon and monofilament and, you know, that kind of mix, and then you got braided line. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to you about here is the monofilament. Monofilament is something that I find a necessity to have in my boat, and the reason is because it floats. I love throwing this on say a topwater lure, and you know, where I'm making shorter casts to where I want a little bit of a stretch so I don't pull it out of the fish's mouth. I love it on making long casts with say worms in shallow water, so that when I set the hook, you know, that hook actually penetrates into the fish's mouth. It's got the right amount of strength, you know, the stretch in it, and the strength is crucial. And you know, shallow water fishing like that, which I grew up doing, you know, I learned that with fluorocarbon in, say, short casts in like 2 foot of water, if I set the hook, a lot of the times, you know, I don't get that penetration. I'll either rip it out of the fish's mouth, or, you know, the fish will let it go because it feels me, because there's not any stretch. So stren monofilament, I mean, it is hands down, you know, a bait or a line that I use to cast certain baits with, like we talked about, top water and shallow water. And then you go to the fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon has no stretch. It sinks, and the sensitivity is unbelievable on it. So, you know, unlike the monofilament, the fluorocast, I'm going to throw in, say, 25 foot of water. Maybe I'll throw a spinnerbait on it or something like that, and you're making long casts and you don't want the stretch, but you want the transparency of it. So you take the transparency of fluorocast and the non-stretch, and you use that in, say, a football jig in 25 foot of water. You set the hook, you have no stretch, but you have the transparency down there, so you got everything you need down there. And then to where I'll throw it on, say, like a real slow sinking bait, to where you just want it to fall down there. You can watch your line, you know, the line will sink with the bait, and it's just a scenario like that is perfect for fluorocarbon. And then you go to one of my favorite, which is the braid. The braided line has no stretch, and it is just hands down power fishing 100%, ripping them out of mats, making long casts, and bringing those fish all the way back to the boat. The braided line gives you everything you need, because there's times where I'll almost go to the end of my spool and, you know, set the hook and get that fish all the way into the boat. If you were to throw mono or fluorocarbon, you're going to have too much stretch on that long of a cast. So with a Revo, I'll just fire that thing as far as I can, get the bite, and then reel the fish all the way in. So the braided line is hands down, you know, a power bait, to where I'll even throw, like if you're throwing a spook out there on you know, long cast, I'll go with the braid, because it does float, and you want that, you know, you don't want any stretch when you're making that long cast like that.